we can attack any objects in Russian territory because Russia is aggressor against Ukraine, and we have all moral and juridical right to do this. But for the moment, for us, it's more important to liberate our territories. So that is our priority aim.
At least 9 people died earlier today in a new wave of strikes across Ukraine in which Russia used powerful weapons, including rare hypersonic missiles. Now, Russia had reportedly not fired Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, which can evade air defenses since the beginning of the conflict. And this latest barrage was the most severe to hit Ukraine for weeks, cutting power to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, which is Europe's biggest. Well, earlier this evening, I spoke to Oleksiy Honcharenko, People's Deputy of Ukraine and former chairman of the Odessa Oblast Council. And he told me how people in Kharkiv, the second city, have been reacting.
Yeah, that was the biggest missile attack from the beginning of this year, one of the biggest throughout the war. The most damaged city is Kharkiv, the second biggest city of Ukraine. I've been today in Kharkiv the whole day. There was no water, no electricity, no heating, no mobile connection. So difficult situation. Also, Kiev, Odessa, and other parts of Ukraine were touched and hit. Definitely, it's a challenge for people. It's good that now it's already March, so it's not so cold, and that makes it easier. But in general, it's a problem. But also, 5 people are killed, number are wounded. So that's a real challenge.
One of the things we're used to seeing on our TV and hearing on our radio, reading in our newspaper, is the indomitable spirit of the Ukrainian people. But one wonders how much longer they can endure this. What have people been saying today to you in Kharkiv? Because this has been going on for a long time and it's been a truly terrible bombardment today.
I haven't seen any one person who was complaining. Well, that it is essential for Ukraine and Ukrainians. It's to be or not to be. So we need to win this war, and everybody realizes it.
But the type of weapons that the Russians have chosen to use now are, to quote a Ukrainian defense spokesman, like never before. These Kinzhal ballistic missiles traveling several times the speed of sound, and also the Kh-22 anti-ship missiles and the S-300. These are weapons which I'm sure you're familiar with. How concerned are you that the Russians may be turning the screw, making it even more terrible for Ukrainians on the ground?
We are concerned, and we hope that Ukraine will receive more air defense against such barbaric attacks, because part of this can be intercepted by, for example, Patriot systems, which still Ukraine is so desperately waiting for.
We're hearing a lot in this country also about the city of Bakhmut, which was held by the Russians, and then there was a counteroffensive, and the Russians were then saying to the Ukrainians, leave, we have you surrounded. But President Zelensky says, no, we're not going to give any territory. What is the position today?
The situation in Bakhmut is very critical. Russia is already controlling part of the city, but we continue to fight. A friend of mine is there now inside the city. They continue to fight. I can't predict what will be the result, but Ukraine is not going to give up easily any inch of our territory. So Bakhmut is not exception. Only thing I want to remind you that Russia is attacking Bakhmut from July of last year,
Yes.
so almost 1 year, and they can't take it. It shows really capability of Russian army and the strength of Ukrainians.
At the same time, this war of attrition around Bakhmut is claiming so many lives. There's an estimate of 20 to 30,000 lives of Russians. And, one doesn't know what the cost of human life is among the Ukrainians. Do you know?
We don't know exact numbers, but definitely we also have losses. But it's in several times, at least 5-7 times less than losses of Russian army.
And what do you think is going to happen next in this war. Everybody's been talking about the major Russian offensive after the first anniversary, once they've got their reserves lined up, even possibility of Belarus joining in. What are your concerns? What are your fears?
I think that Russia has no capability for a big attack and big offensive. I don't think that they will attack from Belarus, but definitely we should be very cautious about this. I think that Russia will continue this war of attrition and using their soldiers as cannon fodder. And at the same time, Ukraine is preparing its own counteroffensive. So it's hard to predict the war. We will see the development in the nearest months.
And how much of the Ukrainian counteroffensive will involve strikes deeper and deeper into Russian territory?
We can attack any objects in Russian territory because Russia is aggressor against Ukraine, and we have all moral and juridical right to do this. But for the moment, for us, it's more important to liberate our territories. So that is our priority aim.
And that was Oleksiy Honcharenko, People's Deputy of Ukraine and former chairman of the Odessa Oblast Council.